The first step to replacing a radiator and a fan is to remove your airbox. To remove your airbox, you're going to use an 8mm socket to loosen the clamp on the hose and then push the hose back. Once it is off, you're going to pry off the top half of the box and then remove your air filter. Now with the 10mm socket, you're going to remove the bolt holding the bottom of the box and remove your airbox. Once the airbox is removed, you're going to disconnect your fan. To disconnect your fan, you're going to push the tab in on the cable and then pull it apart. Now you're going to remove the clips holding on the plastic cover on the bottom of the car. Have a drain pan ready because this is where you're going to drain your coolant. With the 10mm socket, you are now going to remove the 2 bolts holding the fan. Now with hose clamp pliers, remove the clamps on the upper radiator hose, and to make your job easier, spray some WD-40 under the hose so it is easier to remove. Now that the upper radiator hose is removed, you can remove your fan. Once your fan is out, you can remove the clips holding on your upper radiator shroud. With the 10mm socket, you are now going to remove the bolts that hold up your bumper. You can now remove the clips on top of your bumper. You're also going to need to remove some clips from your fender liner to gain access to 2 more 10mm bolts to remove your bumper. Once they are out, you can take off your bumper. With a 10mm socket, you are now going to remove the 4 bolts on your condenser. Also with the 10mm socket, you're going to remove your upper radiator brackets. You are now going to spray some WD-40 on your lower radiator hose and clamp to make it easier to remove. Once you sprayed it with WD-40, with hose clamp pliers, you're going to remove the clamp and hose. Now that everything is disconnected from the radiator, you can pull it out. Once your old radiator is out, we are going to put on your seals, bushings, and drain hoses on your new radiator. When removing the drain hose, use needle nose pliers to loosen the clamp and pull it off. Now that everything is reattached to the radiator, spray your hose mounts with WD-40 to make the hoses slide on easier. Your new radiator is now ready to go and you can slide it back into place. Once your radiator is in place, with a 10mm socket, you're going to put your upper radiator brackets back on. Also with the 10mm socket, you're going to put your condenser bolts back in. Now that your radiator is secure, reattach the radiator insulator covers and connect your lower radiator hose. Before we put the fan on, we transferred the old wire harness to the new fan. We also secured the wires down with zip ties. You can now slide your fan back into place, and with a 10mm socket, you're going to put the 2 bolts back in. Once your fan is secure, you can put your upper radiator hose back on. You can now fill your car up with coolant. When doing this, you want to bleed it, so you're going to loosen the coolant nipple, and once it starts to come out of the top, you're going to re-tighten it. With a 10mm socket, you're going to reattach your air box. Once it is secure, you're going to put the air filter back in and the top back on. Now pull the hose back on with an 8mm socket. You're going to tighten the clamp and reattach the hose on the side. We can now put the bumper back on. Start by lining it up and then sliding it back into place. Now with a 10mm socket, you're going to put back in the 2 bolts at the top. Once the 2 bolts are back in, you can put the clips on the top in. Now put the covers back on by clicking them into place. Also, don't forget to put your blinkers back on. With a 10mm socket, put the 2 bumper bolts under the fender liner back in, and then put the clips for the fender liner in. For the final step, with a 10mm socket, you're going to put the bottom covers back on, and you're good to go.